Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna
Yes.
Mataji.
Hari Hari
Amana.
Bol.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vasudha Mataji. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, have you joined? Amrit Seva Prabhu, Hari Bol. Okay. Someone can do a kirtan for 2-3 minutes while I'll just call Prabhu and ask him to join. Anyone?
Okay, Mataji, I'll continue to do. Nobody's.
Yeah,
Shall I do?
Vasudha Mataji. Yeah, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hari Hari Bol, Hari Nam Sankirtan ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari. Thank you, Mataji, Vasudha Mataji. Many thanks to you. And welcome His Grace Anirudh Seva Prabhu. Hari Bol Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Pranam. Okay, over to you, Prabhu.
Yeah, Mataji, the prayers have been sung, right?
Not yet, Prabhu. Not yet.
Radha Madhav?
Not Radha Madhav. No, Prabhu.
Okay. I'll just do a quick.
Yeah, sure.
We'll start the class. Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Yadvaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Ram Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Welcome devotees for today's Bhagavatam session. So we are in the second canto, 10th chapter, 44th verse. I'll start with my prayers. Om Agnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sagana Raguna Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakarmitam Shah He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Ushabhanusate Devi Pranamami Haripriya Pancha Kalpatarubhasha Kripa Sindhu Pyecha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktarunda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna, can someone share the screen, those shlokas?
Can anyone share the screen from the devotees? Okay, I'll do it, Prabhu, then.
Yeah, please. So it will be shloka number 41 to 44.
Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So it's a shloka number 41 to 10:41. Sattvam rajastama iti tisraha sura narakaha tatrapi eka kasho rajan vidyante gatayastridha yadaika kai kataro anyabhyam swabhava vahanyate sattvam rajastama iti tisra sura narakaha tatrapi ekaikasho rajan vidyante gatayastridha yadaikaikataro anyabhyam swabhava upahanyate sattvam rajas tama iti tisra sura narakaha tatrapi ekakaso rajan vidyante gatayastridha yadaikaikataro anyabhyam swabhava upahanyate. Synonyms: Sattvam, the mode of goodness; Rajaha, the mode of passion; Tamaha, the mode of darkness; Iti, thus; Tisraha, the three; Sura, demigod; Indra, human being; Narakaha, one who is suffering hellish conditions; Tatra api, even there; Ekaikashaha, another; Rajan, O king; Vidyante, divide into; Gatayaha, movements; Trida, three; Yada, at that time; Ekaikataraha, one in relation with another; Anyabhyam, from the other; Swabhavaha, habit; Upahanyate, develops. Translation purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation, please listen carefully. According to the different modes of material nature, the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of darkness, there are different living creatures who are known as demigods, human beings, and hellish living entities. O king, even a particular mode of nature being mixed with the other two is divided into three, and thus each kind of living creature is influenced by the other modes and acquires its habits also. Purport.
Prabhu, there are devotees who have raised their hand to greet. Vasudha
So they
Mataji
can
and
both of them can share this purport. That's right. They
Vasudha
can read the
Mataji.
purport.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, you have to scroll it up, Mataji. Purport, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
The living entities individually are being conducted by a particular mode of nature. But at the same time, there is every chance of their being influenced by the other two. Generally, all conditioned souls in the material engagement are influenced by the mode of passion, because every one of them is trying to lord it over the material nature to fulfill his individual desire. But in spite of the individual mode of passion, there is always the chance of being influenced by the other modes of nature by association. If one is in good association, he can develop the mode of goodness, and if in bad association, he may develop the mode of darkness or ignorance. Nothing is stereotyped. One can change his habit by good or bad association, and one has to become intelligent enough to discriminate between good and bad. The best association is the service of the devotees of the Lord, and by that association, one can become the highest qualified man by the grace of the Lord's pure devotees. As we have already seen in the life of Srila Narada Muni, he became the topmost devotee of the Lord simply by the association of pure devotees of the Lord. By birth, he was the son of maid servant and had no knowledge of his father and no academic education, even of the lowest status. Mataji, Hare Krishna. Someone can read, Mataji?
Yes.
Shanti Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. But simply by associating with the devotees and by eating the remnants of their foodstuff, he gradually developed the transcendental qualities of the Brahmin, and because the glories of the Lord are non-different from the Lord, he got direct connection, direct association with the Lord by means of sound representation. Similarly, there is the life of Ajamila, 6th canto, who was the son of a Brahmana and was educated and trained properly in the discharge of the duties of a Brahmana, but who, in spite of all this, because he contracted the bad association of a prostitute, was put into the path of the lowest quality of Chandala, or the last position for opening the gate of the salvation. To associate with persons engaged in lording it over the material world means to enter into the darkest region of hell. One should try to raise himself by the association of the great soul. That is the way of the perfection of life. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you. Om Agnantimirandasya Dhananjana Shalakya Chakshurumritamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hare Krishna. So we are in this very important chapter of this 10th chapter, which is talking about the cosmic manifestation. I mean, the second canto is a cosmic manifestation, and this chapter 10 Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. So there is the chapter. So in this, Sukdev Goswami, as we have read, that he is giving the entire science of God. The entire cosmic manifestation is being explained very nicely here. What is the Lord's supremacy? What is the Sambandha Gyan? And what is the Avideya? What needs to be done in terms of living entity to achieve or to serve the Lord? And then finally, what is the prayojana, or what is the benefit, supreme benefit of worshipping the Supreme Lord, understanding His supremacy. So like this, it is very clearly mentioned, and the interdependence between the Lord, the living entity, and the Prakriti, the nature. So all these have been very nicely mentioned. And now in this, and also how from each of these organs of Mahavishnu, how the senses and how these individual organs are working, how they're under the control of the Lord. Even that is also mentioned, and what is the role of the Lord. So for example, shloka number 15, it says, from the sky situated with the transcendental body of the manifesting Mahavishnu, sense energy, mental force, bodily strength are all generated, as well as the sum total of the fountainhead of the living force. So it is very clear that from that Mahavishnu, which is actually the Karanodakashaya Vishnu, that entire creation, what is required for the living entity, the sense and essential energy, the mental force, the mind, intelligence, and the bodily strength, all these are generated. And that is how the living force, the sum total of the living force is the Lord. In fact, the Lord has all these potencies in unlimited quantity, but whereas we are having in a very limited quantity. And the Lord is having his energies are all in spiritual nature, but whereas in our case the soul is also part and parcel of the Lord, is in spiritual nature, but the problem is our body is made of matter, whereas the Lord is completely in the spiritual nature, whereas we are covered by the material nature. And because of that, since the soul is covered by the material nature, so we act according to our body. So that's the whole problem, and we identify ourselves as the body. And with that aspect in place in this material world, we are governed by the finally by the three modes of material nature. I mean, that is also mentioned very clearly by the Lord. And in this shloka which we are taking up, this is all talking about the modes of nature, how this is going to impact us. And in the 37 to 40 shloka, we understood that, I think it was probably taken yesterday, that how Supreme Lord, according to the past deeds of the living entities, whatever they would have culminated in their previous, before when the pralaya or the destruction happens, at that point of time, whatever they had conducted their past deeds, accordingly they will the entity, when after the devastation is over, these entities, living entities, get back to their actual their previous as per their previous deeds, they'll get their lives and they continue their activity. So this includes right from Brahma, sons Daksha, the periodical heads like the Manu, all the 14 Manus, the demigods. So that means it is that in the previous, just before the cosmic manifestation got entered into the Supreme Lord under the devastation or the pralaya, so all these were doing the same activity, and now again they have continued to that activities. And this is applicable for those who are actually of the higher strata in the material world, like the demigods, the Vidyadharas, the Yakshas, Kinnaras, so all this way. And as far as the human beings are concerned, even they also will come back. When they come back, they will start with their previous accumulated past deeds. And with that, if they are probably in a devotee family and all that, they will definitely get the devotee life. So like this, including the animals, everything is mentioned here. All of them, according to their past deeds, are created by the Supreme Lord. So this is what we have understood yesterday. Now, in today's verse, we are coming to the modes, how these modes of nature, the Satagun, Rajagun, and the Tamagun, have an effect on the living creatures. So the shloka goes like this: according to different modes of material nature, the modes of goodness, the modes of passion, modes of darkness. There are different living creatures who are known as demigods, human beings, and hellish living entities. So the three living creatures: one who are demigods, who are always in the mode of goodness; human being, mostly they are in the mode of passion; and hellish living entities, which are basically animals, and it could be even some men who are human also, who are in the mode of ignorance. So this way, it is mentioned that every particular mode, the Satagun, mixed with the other two, mixed with mode of passion to some extent, the proportions may change, the permutations and combinations will change, and accordingly, we understand that there are 81 different modes which is in acting. Like the three, the good, the Raja, Tama, and Sattva. One is that Raja is there mixed with Sattva is there mixed with Raja and Tama to certain degrees, and Raja is there mixed with Sattva and Tama, and Tama is there mixed with Sattva and Rajas in different capacities. So like this, these three will become 3 into 3 will become 9, and 9 into again that 9 different flavors will get into another 9 different flavors of the modes of nature, and that way we acquire about 81 typical modes. And again, once it acquires the living entity, continues that activity, and then it acquires the habit. So that's why it is said also, no, that in the common words, in the common language also, that the moment a habit is there, that means how much ever you try to do, it is very difficult to go, which is actually, we call it as our vasanas, or the previous lives propensities, or our what are influences, in which mode we were influenced in the previous life, will have an effect now in the new life, and then we continue that activity. So habit, if you remove H, a bit remains of that whatever particular aspect you are doing, and if you remove A, bit remains, and if you remove B, it remains. So ultimately that vasana will remain. That way, this very very difficult to come out of those habits. So it is very important that we develop our activities and our prepare our environment in a very in the Sattvagun. Then automatically we are guaranteed to reach higher planetary systems. And then if you are able to do in the Sattvagun, then we'll reach the platform of Vishuddha Sattva, or the pure goodness. Right now in the material world, the goodness is actually little contaminated. So that also will not guarantee us to go back to Godhead, because we are going to the spiritual world. Spiritual world is Vishuddha Sattva. It's pure goodness. So we have to surpass that. If we have to surpass, then we have to be in the spiritual association, and only then we can transcend this mode of goodness. Then we can go to the pure goodness. So that is the very clear understanding in this from this shloka. So here Prabhupada mentions the living entities are conducted by a particular mode of nature, but at the same time, every chance of being influenced by the other two. Generally, all conditioned soul in the material engagement are influenced by the mode of passion, because every one of them is trying to lord it over the material nature to fulfill his individual desire. So the desires are unlimited for a living entity, and desires are unlimited, and even his activities or his propensity to lord over the matter or to enjoy is also unlimited. So the more we have these kinds of desires, then we will be entangled in this material world. And what to speak of just the desires? There are also the 6 Shadvargas, the Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. This is also every moment, each of these Arishadva Varga, all the 6 Arjas, will keep bothering us. So when these kinds of things are there, it will be a multitude of distractions for a person. So that's why we have to be very careful. The more we develop in a good association with the devotees, then there is some hope for advancement. Otherwise, it is going to be that we are, for some time, we'll be in mode of goodness, and for the rest of the time, we may be either in the mode of ignorance or the mode of passion. So that way, we'll keep loitering. So that's why Prabhupada says the best association is the service of the devotees of the Lord. And by that association, one can become the highest qualified man by the grace of Lord's pure devotee. So here, Prabhupada is highlighting that the best way of serving is the devotees of the Lord, not even the Lord. And by the association, you can become qualified. Of course, when we are doing the service of the Lord, only then we'll come in contact with the devotee. And Lord himself has said that Aham Bhakta Paradino in the Bhagavatam, in the Durasa Muni and Amrish Maharaj instance, The Lord, he says, Lord is telling, Vishnu is telling that, I am, captivated, I am, engulfed by my devotees, his love and affection. I'm, bound by his love. So like that, Lord is telling. So this is very important. So we come across one very, very important pastime in the Sri Ramanujacharya's time. Ramanujacharya had one very great disciple, Kanchipurna. So this Kanchipurna was taking care of the Varadaraj Perumal temple in Kanchipuram. Today it is there. The temple is also there. This happened about 1,000 years back. And so this Kanchipurna was such an advanced devotee that he was the head priest of Varadaraj Perumal. I mean, you would have seen the Varadaraj Perumal, many of the devotees. It's about 10, 12 feet, huge, murti, and very, very attractive features. And that Lord, he was serving, serving from so many years. And he was directly talking with the Lord. Anytime, he was in the altar service, he used to interact directly with the Lord, like how we speak, to a fellow devotee, like that. He was so attached to the Lord, and Lord was also so much attached to Kanchipurna. And all the devotees who used to come, whatever problems they had in their life, they used to come and ask, Kanchipurna, please see like this. I want to know when my daughter will get married, when my son will get a job, when we'll have, when I can complete my house construction. So many things, whatever were their aspirations, desires, they used to ask. And Kanchipurna used to check with the Lord, and Lord Perumal used to reply, and that he used to convey back to the devotees. So this was the order of the day. And Ramanujacharya also was very fascinated, how this kind of reciprocation is happening. And he was also very happy with the Lord. But he knew internally what was the real story behind it, or the secret behind it. So, and then once it so happened that some devotee, when they are in an assembly of devotee, and then Ramanujacharya told that, yes, you will go back to Godhead because you're serving the Lord, or you're doing this preaching activities, whatever activity he was doing. So he told him. And then Kanchipurna also got it out. My God, every day I'm asking the Lord and he's responding to me. I should go and ask. No, because Ramanujacharya told another devotee that he will be delivered, he will go back to Godhead. What is my fate? What is my status? So let me go and then ask. So he went and asked the Lord, Varadaraj Perumal, saying that, Maharaj, Lord, I'm serving you so much, but what is my destiny? Will I also come back to you to serve in your abode? Like that he asked. So after a few moments of silence, Lord said, no, you will not come back to Godhead. So you are shocked, actually, Kanchipurna. My God, day in and day out I'm serving, but you are telling that I will not go back. What is this? What is the mystery? What is this? Then Lord said that you have to serve the devotees of the Lord. All along you have been only serving me, but you have not served the devotee of the Lord. So first you have to go and serve the devotees of the Lord. So immediately Kanchipurna, he packed up his bag and left the temple, and he said goodbye to the Lord, and then he walked away. Actually, it is said that Lord walked back, and then he started chasing Kanchipurna. No, Baba, I told you, for in a matter of a jest, and in a matter of to give you some advice, I told you it's not, don't go back. You have to come back. You can start serving, but devotees, you can also, you'll get a chance to serve and all that. But then Kanchipurna was very adamant. No, he said, no, my Lord, you have given me the advice, I'll go back. And then he started serving Ramanujacharya. He started serving so many Vaishnava sannyasis, and like that, he got the grace of the Lord. So this is the, this is what, is important, that the Tadiyanam Samarchanam. Of course, Aradhanam Vishnu Param is there, but Tasmat Prataram Devi Tadiyanam Samarchanam. Even the worshipping of the devotees of the Lord and whatever paraphernalia used by the devotees of the Lord, that also should be respected, and we should associate with them. So like this, it is there. And Prabhupada gives the example of Narada Muni, how simply by associating with the all the Bhagavats who had come there, and he served them and took the prasad, he gradually developed the transcendental qualities. And on the other aspect, on the downgrading aspect, it was Ajamila. Ajamila actually was son of a Brahmana. He was such a great devotee of the Lord. But because of a wrong association, the Asat Sangha, where he saw, the Shudrani and the prostitute and that Shudra in a very intimate position, he got carried away, and all his mode of goodness was converted. He went into the mode of passion. He went into the mode of ignorance. He started stealing. He became a dacoit, and then he was in a very abominable stage. But just because that he had done his spiritual practices earlier, and there was the remnants, the vasana was there, that he had that culture, Brahminical culture, he was saved. And also he had kept his son's name as Narayana, and then when the Yamadutas came at the time of his death, he just simply uttered the holy name of Narayana. Although he wanted to call his son, but the Vishnudutas also heard, and then they came and rescued. So all this is very important, that how we take care of our association, the same way our destination is also going to be manifest. So that's why Prabhupada, he says that, therefore, the Bhagavatam always recommends the association of the Mahat, or the great soul, for opening the gate of salvation. To associate with persons engaged in lording it over the material world means to enter the darkest region of hell. So one should try to raise himself by the association of the great soul. That is the way of perfection of life. So, I mean, we understand, we also have read, and we have also come across how Prabhupada, when he started his Hare Krishna movement, the Sankirtan movement, and wanted to revive this Bhakti cult all over the world, and by the advice of his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he went to America with hardly any resources, with no money, with no assistants, with no contacts, and most of them are all in the loitering in the material world. None of them knew what is Vedas, who is Krishna, who is Rama, nothing, just like that. But he had that supreme confidence, and he had that supreme divine mercy of his guru and the parampara, that one day he is going to fulfill the prophecy of which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself, had told, that Prithvi Chache iti nagaradikam sarvata prachar hoibe mora naam, that all over the world, every town and village, my name will be chanted and my glories will be said by the Lord. So all these were there. So he just of having that firm faith, he went. And whom did he meet? He went to he used to sit in the Thompson Square Park, and then in New York, and then he used to just chant the holy mantra, and with kartals, and that's it. He used to, in a very transcendental mood, he used to sing that. And who came? There were two youths who came initially. One was Bruce, who was named as Brahmananda, and one was Yak, I think, that his name, and he was the Achyutananda. So these two devotees actually transformed the whole, and they manifested the entire Krishna Bhakti movement all over the world. They were the first two youth, just about 18, 19-year-old boys who came and assisted Prabhupada. And then the miracle itself started, that everyone were transformed. So that's what Prabhupada is telling. Just you have to associate with the supreme pure devotee of the Lord, like how Narada Muni got association of the pure devotees of the Lord, and finally Ajamila also got the holy name, the pure, because he chanted the holy name in a very pure way, offenselessly he chanted. So he also got the association, and then he was also delivered, in the sense that after that the Lord Vishnudutas and the Vishnu also gave him that opportunity, that he has to go and do his sadhana. All these years he did a lot of sinful activities. Now he has to atone, do the prayaschitta, and once he does the prayaschitta, then he has to do his sadhana. So that's how he went and did penance for about 12 years in Haridwar, and chanted the holy names. Completely he was in the above the Shuddha Sattva. He was in that platform, and then performed his spiritual activities, and finally he got delivered. Hare Krishna. There are many examples we can take in this regard, where association is most important. For example, Ratnakara, who was a robber, who was a dacoit, who was a hunter, and he association of Narada Muni became Valmiki. So that's a wonderful story in itself, wonderful lesson to be learned, how the association he got converted. And there is another one case where there was a sannyasi who was staying in his hermitage and doing all spiritual activities. But for some reason, there was a dacoit who was being haunted, who was being chased by the police or the security or the kshatriyas, and then he came and then took shelter in this hermitage where the sannyasi was living, and he had a sword, and this sword was a shining one, and then it was kept. And that sannyasi, for out of compassion, he gave a shelter to this dacoit, and then he allowed him to stay. And of course, dacoit means he will be in a very angry mood and in a very demoniac mood. So the sage just agreed, okay, if you want to take shelter because I want some protection, you are asking, I'm giving you. Although it was a little against the law, but he didn't have a choice, because otherwise this dacoit is going to take his life, or something untoward will happen. So he just allowed him, and this dacoit started staying in that ashram. And over a period of time, the sannyasi was enamored by that sword. So he saw what a shining sword. He started looking at it. He used to, when he was coming to feed him or talk to him or like that, he got enamored by that. And unfortunately, he took that sword. He thought what this sword can make, how it will help. He thought that, okay, let me take to the field. The grass is there, and let me cut it and get some fodder for the cows, something like that he thought. And then he went with the sword, and then he started chopping the grass. All that wild grass was there, and by the quirk of providence, it so happened that some snakes were there in the grass, and when he cut with the sword, the snakes were dying. It's like that, so many living entities he started killing. And because of this, one few incidents like this, he started accumulating the sin, and he started accumulating, and then he got carried away by that sword, and he was becoming trying to do different actions by the sword, and cutting and then showing off and all that. And unfortunately, by this bad association or his enamorment with that materialist object, and he actually fell down, and then he actually had to suffer a lot. So like this, it's very important. We have to be careful in which association we are taking and in which mode we are conducting our life. Hare Krishna. So we'll go to the next shloka, shloka number 42. So the devotees can read the shloka and that translation, and somebody can read the purport. Hare Bol.
Kanti Mataji. Yeah, Subha Rao Prabhu, you can read.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Saye Vedam Jagat Dhata Bhagavan Dharma Rupadve Pushnati Sthapayan Vishvam Divyan Narasuradibi. Translation by His Divine Grace, Jai Sri Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. He, the personality of Godhead, as the maintainer of all in the universe, appears in different incarnations after establishing the creation, and thus he reclaims all kinds of conditioned souls amongst the humans, the non-humans, and the demigods. Purport.
Prabhu Krishnamurti Prabhu will read purport.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, incarnates himself in different societies of living entities to reclaim them from the clutches of illusion. And such activities of the Lord are not limited only to human society. He incarnates himself even as fish, hog, tree, and many other forms. But less intelligent persons who have no knowledge of him derive him, even if he is a human society, as a human being. The Lord therefore says in the Bhagavad Gita 9.11, Avajanante ma mudaha manushim tanumashritam param bhavam ajananta mama bhuta maheshwaram. As we had already discussed in the previous verses, it is concluded that the Lord is never a product of the material creation. His transcendental position is always unchanged. He is the eternal form of knowledge and bliss, and he executes his almighty will by different energies. As such, he is never the subject of reactions for any of his acts. He is transcendental to all such conceptions of actions and reactions. Even if he is visible in the material world, the exhibition is only on his internal energy, for he is above the good and bad conceptions of this material world. In the material world, the fish or the hog may be considered lower than the man, but when the Lord appears as a fish or hog, he is neither of them in the material conception. It is his causeless mercy that he appears in every society or species of life, but he is never to be considered one of them. Conceptions of the material world, such as good and bad, lower and upper, important and insignificant, are estimations of the material energy. And the Supreme Lord is transcendent to all such conceptions. The words
Sudha Mataji will come here.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you. Sudha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandat Pranam. Mataji from okay. The words Param Bhavam or transcendental nature can never be compared to the material conception. We should not forget that the potencies of the Almighty Lord are always the same and do not decrease because the Lord assumes the form of a lower animal. There is no difference between Lord Sri Rama and Lord Sri Krishna and his incarnations as a fish and hog. He is all-pervading and simultaneously localized at any and every place. But the foolish person with a poor fund of knowledge for want of that Param Bhavam of the Lord cannot understand how the Supreme Lord can take the form of a man or a fish. One compares everything to one's own standard of knowledge, as a frog in the well considers the sea to be like the well. The frog in the well cannot even think of the sea, and when such a frog is informed of the greatness of the sea, it takes the conception of the sea as being a little greater than the well. As such, one who is foolish about the transcendental science of the Lord will find it difficult to understand how Lord Vishnu can equally manifest himself in every society of living entities. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you very much. So now in this shloka, so he's advising about the Lord himself, and the Lord's, what is his supreme nature? Why he is the supreme? And in spite of taking different incarnations at different point of times, these incarnations are happening in this creation. And what is his purpose? He has to reclaim. He has to take back these living entities, conditioned souls, amongst the humans, the non-humans, and the demigods. Each one of them has to go back to the Godhead. So what is very significant here is that we first, in the previous shloka, we explained about the modes of nature. Okay, how the modes of nature will affect how each individual's activities and previous karmas will affect, and it will become the pathway for his journey back to Godhead. Now, here, first of all, we should know who is that Supreme Lord, unto whom we have to worship. So that is very important. And who can give that knowledge? That knowledge can be given by the pure devotee, and coming from a bona fide sampradaya, coming from a bona fide parampara, very, very important. So that is how we in ISKCON, under the leadership and guidance of Srila Prabhupada, are very lucky, very fortunate that we are on the right path, and we have got such a pure devotee of the Lord who is given all these commentaries, instructions, and about so much of pages of literature, philosophy, and spiritual knowledge Prabhupada has given, that we can never repay our debt to Prabhupada. He is such a great acharya. So we have to be very, we have to show our gratitude in innumerable ways in every moment of our life, because he is the one who is guiding us and giving us this knowledge. Because otherwise, we all, before coming to ISKCON, we never knew about Prabhupada. We never knew about many of them, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, so many of these Rath Yatras, so many of these festivals, or the Gaudiya Parampara. Nothing we knew. or even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for that matter. So everything Prabhupada has given, and we have now got addicted to this books, Shastras, Sadhu, and the Guru. So this way, we have to be very, extend our gratitude every moment of our life. So now here, Shukdev Goswami is giving about the incarnation of the supremacy of the Lord and how he is the fountainhead of all, and he is the maintainer of all these incarnations. And he might come, Krishna may come through Mahavishnu as the different incarnations. Like he can come in the form of a Matsya Avatara, he can come as a Kurma Avatara, he can come as a Varaha Avatara, or he can come as a Narasimha Avatara. So any of this he can come, but we have to understand that all of these are actually beyond the material conception. It's all in the spiritual variety. And Brahma Samhita glorifies that how the Lord is having each of his organs are having the spiritual nature, and from his eyes he can actually eat the prasad. The Lord Krishna can eat, and from his from his legs he can probably see the devotees. So like that, there is no distinction of any of the organs of his body, because everything is in spiritual nature. Angani yasya sakalendra vrittimanti pashyanti panti kalayanti chiram jaganti ananda chinmay sadurjala vigrahasya govinda madi purusham tamaham bhajami. That's what Brahma is telling, that Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti, all of these organs are in a spiritual nature, and they have that potency, unlike material body where each organ can just do only that activity. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself had advised to Arjuna that there are so many non-devotees, because this shloka is also talking about the non-devotees. And here he says that people are misrepresenting the Lord, and since they have not understood the potency of the Lord, so they actually form a different conception of the Lord, and they deride the Lord. Because he came as a human, so he is also, they treat him as a, as any of our, as a human being, and that way they commit a lot of offense, especially the Mayavadis, the people who don't, impersonalists basically, who don't treat the personal nature of the Lord. And there are Shunyavadis. The Shunyavadis, like Buddhists, they negate the spiritual nature of the Lord, and that he has a form. And many of the other religions also, like in the Islam, there is no mention of the physical nature of the Lord. It is said that he doesn't have a form, and they're all worshipping Lord. So like this, there are so many concoctions and contaminations, and they suffer. So here, like it says, Avajananti Mamuda Manushim Tanumashritam. Just because I took the form of a human does not mean that I am also of the same category. That I am actually my transcendental position, and I am full of Sat, Chit, and knowledge. Sat is the eternal truth. The Chit is the knowledge, unlimited knowledge, and the Ananda, the bliss. So like this, he is now explaining the supremacy of the Lord and the qualities of the Lord. So now it is up to the individual to take the decision, the right decision. But before that, he has to come to the conclusion, or he has to get the guidance of a pure devotee. And that is very important. Unless he gets a causeless mercy of the Guru, Sadhus, Shastras, he cannot progress. So that is why it is very important that we understand the transcendental nature of the Lord. And only then we take up the practice of chanting, associating the devotees, and further advancement, further doing some seva to the Lord, either in the temple or at the home. And that way we get completely Krishnaized, or Krishna conscious, spiritualized, like that. So Prabhupada says, as such, one who is foolish about the transcendental signs of the Lord will find it difficult to understand how he can manifest in different forms. So unless a person comes to the platform of understanding the transcendental nature or the transcendental signs from a bona fide parampara and bona fide guru, he will be bewildered, and he will make offenses, and he will go to demigods, or he may go to some other god or human god, and then ultimately perish. So that's why we have to be very careful in choosing the right the path, and choosing the right parampara, and also getting the right knowledge. Hare Krishna. We'll take the next shloka, 43. The next devotee can read, please, the shloka and the translation.
Gayatri Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Text 43. Tataha kalagniruddratma yatshishtam idamatmanaha sanniyachyati tatkale ghanānikam ivanilaha. Translation. Translation by His Divinity Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thereafter, at the end of the millennium, the Lord himself in the form of Rudra, the destroyer, will annihilate the complete creation as the wind displaces the clouds. Hare Krishna. Should I read the purport?
Anybody else is there in the queue?
Meenakshi Mataji is there. Yeah.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Purport. This creation is very appropriately compared to clouds. Clouds are created or situated in the sky, and when they are displaced, they remain in the same sky without manifestation. Similarly, the whole creation is made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form of Brahma. It is maintained by him in the form of Vishnu, and it is destroyed by him in the form of Rudra or Shiva, all in due course. This creation, maintenance, and destruction are nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita 8.19 to 20 as follows. Bhutagramasa avyayam bhutva pralayate ratre agne avasha partha prabhavate ahar agme parastasmatu bhavo vyakto vyaktat sanatana yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyateshu na vinashyati. The nature of material world is that it is first created very nicely, then it develops very nicely and stays for a great number of years, even beyond the calculation of the greatest mathematician. But after that, it is again destroyed during the night of Brahma without any resistance. And at the end of night of Brahma, it is again manifested as a creation to follow the same principles of maintenance and destruction. The foolish
Thanks, Meenakshi Mataji. Sindhu Mataji, you can continue.
Yes, Mataji, very good. From which line, Mataji? The foolish condition.
The foolish condition.
The foolish conditioned soul who has taken this temporary birth as a permanent settlement has to learn intelligently why such creation and destruction take place. The fruitive actors in the material world are very enthusiastic in the creation of big enterprises, big houses, big empires, big industries, and so many big things out of the energy and ingredients supplied by the material agent of the Supreme Lord. With such resources and at the cost of valuable energy, the conditioned soul creates, satisfies his whims, but unwillingly has to depart from all his creations and enter into another phase of life to create again and again. To give hope to such foolish conditioned souls who waste their energy in this temporary material world, the Lord gives information that there is another nature which is eternally existent, without being occasionally created or destroyed, and that the conditioned soul can understand what he should do and how his valuable energy may be utilized. Instead of wasting his energy in matter, which is sure to be destroyed in the due course by the Supreme Will, the conditioned soul should utilize his energy in the devotional service of the Lord so that he can be transferred to the other eternal nature where there is no birth, no death, no creation, no destruction, but permanent life instead, full of knowledge and unlimited bliss. The temporary creation is thus exhibited and destroyed just to give information to the conditioned soul who's attached to temporary things. It's also meant to give him a chance for self-realization and not for sense gratification, which is the prime aim of all fruitive actors. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, so now we understood the modes, how a person, living entity will act. We understood who is the Supreme Lord, why he has to be worshipped, why he has to be taken shelter of. And ultimately, here in this sloka, it is mentioned that Rudra or the Mahesha, he is the one who is going to do the Laya, the destruction. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. So in the Guna Avatara, these three prominent demigods or the extensions of the Lord are going to take care of the mode of goodness, that is Vishnu, who is the maintainer. Then the mode of passion is by Brahmaji, who is actually the creator, and Shiva, Mahesha, who is actually taking care of the mode of people who are under the mode of ignorance, and he is in charge of the destruction. So like this, the whole cosmic manifestation is prepared under the guidance of Krishna. So here, how the material world is just created and then annihilated, like how the children, they go to the sea beach and they are captivated by the sand, the soft sand, and in the beach they will construct the fort or the castle by the sand, by the dry sand, wet sand, and they use their intelligence, their creativity, and they do it, and they enjoy it for some time. And after a few moments, when the waves are very fast or furious, it will come and wash away. After some time, it will wash away, and again the children will start playing depending upon the time available. So they again still make. So like that, the Lord also is manifesting this creation and annihilation. So it is keep on happening. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. But of course, for each of this activity, he has assigned a personality, and they are the ones who will take care of all this activity. Lord is just like the king or the prime minister. He just gives the orders, and he gives the empowerment, and the rest of the entities just simply do their act according to their job description. So that's what is mentioned here. The Lord is so powerful that he can. That's why he's called the supreme controller. I mean, if the Lord is not having that power of delegating, and if he is not having the power of controlling somebody else down him, then how he can become the supreme? There is no question of becoming the supreme. So that supremacy is the most important, and that's what Prabhupada is mentioning, that we have to look at what is that permanent solution for us, because now we are living in a temporary and in a very a place of misery. So how long we are going to continue as human beings, having got this highest form of life, which is a human form? Now we have to utilize this life in a best way. So it is said that you have got you have purchased a lottery ticket. Your lottery ticket is this human form of life. I mean, compared to the trees or the animals, or those people who are under the mode of ignorance, and entities living under mode of passion, not much passion, but mostly under ignorance, they can't pray to the Lord, they cannot chant the holy name, they can't associate with the devotees. So many pitfalls are there. But in a human form of life, you can think, you can radically think, you can become a devotee, you can take to many of the processes, Navavidha Bhakti, and become a devotee of the Lord. So this is the highest form of life, and this is the lottery ticket. You have purchased the lottery ticket because of your past date. You have become a human. Now, what is that you are supposed to do with the lottery ticket? You have to wait for the result to come. But in between, when the result is yet to be declared, suppose you lose that lottery ticket, or you tear off that lottery ticket. Will you tear off that lottery ticket and then put it into pieces? If you do that, you are the most foolish person. You have lost that, and probably your ticket might have won the first prize. The bumper prize may come to you, 1 crore rupees for you. But unfortunately, you don't have the ticket in your hand, or you don't have the ticket in the original condition. Maybe the most critical thing is that number. If that number is not there, you have the ticket, but the number is lost, or it is not available with you. And if you go to the lottery ticket owner and tell him that, see, I had purchased this ticket, blah, 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 and then I want this money, this is my number, I know that this is my number, and you please give me the price. Do you think he will give? No, he will say, no, please bring your the real ticket, the original ticket. Only if you have that original ticket, you will get the prize. So that's why that's what Prabhupada is telling, that we should not waste our energy in this matter. Instead of that, they have to continue in the spiritual nature, perform devotional service. and then go back to Godhead. That is because that is our Jiva Swarupai Nitya Krishna Das. The eternal nature is actually to serve the Lord, and this way we can get a chance for self-realization and not for fruitive activities or sense gratification. Hare Krishna. So we'll go to the last shloka, the 44 shloka. The devotee can read the shloka and the translation. Somebody can read the purport.
Navkishori Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah.
Ittam bhavena kathito bhagavana bhagavattamah naitamma bhavena hi param drashtum hartin surayah. Translation by Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The great transcendentalists thus describe the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the pure devotees deserve to see more glorious things in transcendence beyond these features.
Suma Mataji.
Hare.
Yeah, Mataji.
The Lord is not only the creator and destroyer of the material manifestations of his different energies, he is more than a simple creator and destroyer. For there is his feature of Ananda, or his pleasure feature. The pleasure feature of the Lord is understood by the pure devotees only and not by others. The impersonalist is satisfied simply by understanding the all-pervasive influence of the Lord. This is called Brahman realization. Greater than the impersonalist is the mystic who sees the Lord situated in his part as Paramatma. The partial representation of the Lord, but there are pure devotees who take part in the direct pleasure, Ananda potency of the Lord by factual reciprocation of loving service. The Lord in his abode, called the Vaikuntha planets, which are eternal manifestations, always remains with his associates and enjoys transcendental loving services by his pure devotees in different transcendental humors. The pure devotees of the Lord thus undergo a practice of that devotional service to the Lord during the manifestations of the creation and take full advantage of the manifestation by qualifying themselves to enter the kingdom of God. The Bhagavad Gita 18.55 confirms that
Mataji, Momita Mataji will continue. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Jai. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yaschashmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato jnanatva visate tad anantaram. By development of pure devotional service, one can factually know the Lord as he is, and thus he trained in the bona fide service of the Lord, and be allowed to enter the direct association of the Lord in so many capacities. The highest devotee's association with the Lord is made possible in the planet of Goloka Vrindavana, where Lord Krishna enjoys himself with gopis and his favorite animal, the Surabhi cows. The description of this transcendental Lord and of Krishna is given in the Samhita, which is considered by Sri Chaitanya to be the most authentic literature in this connection.
Haribol. Thank you. Yeah. So now in this shloka, it is very clear mentioned that the transcendentalists are describing the supreme personality of the Godhead, but the pure devotees deserve to see more glorious things in transcendence beyond these features. And what is that feature? That is that Ananda, or the pleasure feature. We can describe the Lord in so many ways, his opulences, but ultimately the prayojana, or what is that you are going to be benefited, how you are going to be benefited, will be measured by the Ananda, or the supreme bliss that you are going to get by associating with the Lord. So that can be available only with Krishna consciousness, and that too in a Bhagavan realization. In an impersonalist who is going for a Brahman realization or a Brahmajyoti, aligning with the Brahmajyoti or merging with the Brahmajyoti, will only have Sat, which is only the absolute truth, the knowledge, his exposure. And a devotee who is in the Paramatma realization will get Sat and Chit, some knowledge and some truth. But both of these platforms will not get the Ananda. That Ananda will come only in the Bhagavan realization, because you have the Supreme Lord, you are serving the Supreme Lord himself. So that Ananda, because since the Lord is the ocean of Ananda, he is the reservoir of the Ananda pleasure potency, only he can give that. So that's why we have to do this loving service where we reciprocate. Lord also reciprocates to the devotees, and that can be possible only in the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha planets. And as we know, Vaikuntha means Vaikuntha. Kunta means problems, troubles. And the place where there is no troubles or no difficulties, that is a place of Vaikuntha. So we have to go back to Godhead. That is our spiritual abode. And that can be done by performing various loving transcendental devotional service in whichever way possible. And that way we can go back, as Prabhupada gives in this shloka, Bhaktya Mama Vijanati, Bhaktya, with bhakti, with devotional service, then Vishate Tadanantaram. Then only we can go back to Godhead. That's why Purandaras has mentioned, Allide Namma Mane. Our home is actually, original home is actually the spiritual world. So we have just come here and we are just loitering here because we have been suffering here and we have not performed our sadhana. Once we perform our sadhana, we can go back to Godhead, and that is the highest place, is actually the Golaka Vrindavana, where Krishna in his original form as the Gopala, in the Gopala form, of the covered form, that is his original form, where we can go and actually be associated with all his devotees, the gopis, gopas, the cows, and the entire creation will be there, which is the real right abode for us. Hare Krishna. So with this, I'll just end the session today. If anyone has any doubts, questions, they can ask.
Thank you, Prabhu. Suma Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, in today's class, Ajamila's case, as you told, like he was saved because before he had done some bhakti.
Yes.
And even when he called out, he was full of he was calling out for his grandchild or son, but there was no love for God, Prabhuji. So even then God comes and rescues. But Bharata Maharaj, the Lord doesn't help. Why it happens, Prabhuji? Even as devotees, like we fall, we rise. Sometimes we do devotional service. Sometimes we're not having any strength to do that. Why it happens, Prabhuji?
See, so your question is, he didn't have love of Godhead, both of them.
Actually, we keep falling. That is the reason, no, Prabhuji, like our fall down in bhakti. But for some, the Lord shows his mercy. Like for my understanding, it seems like that. For Bharata Maharaj, he had to take another birth and go. But for Ajamila, who was a sinner also, like who did the sense gratification, but even then the Lord saved. So how is it, Prabhuji, like?
Yeah, see, ultimately, as far as the devotee is concerned, I mean, when it comes in the material world, every living entity, and especially human form of entity, he is prone to commit mistakes. I mean, we have the four mistakes. Shastra says that we are bound to be in illusion, we are bound to make mistakes, we have imperfect senses, and we have the cheating propensity. Correct. So this somehow will get affected for us. And as far as Ajamila was concerned, although he chanted his son's name, actually he called out his son's name, but he chanted the holy name of the Lord. Okay, since he chanted the holy name, and that was at the end of his lifetime, when the death was approaching, he chanted. So, so now the Yamadutas also came at the same time. Why Yamadutas came? Because he had a past sinful life. Although he was a Brahminical culture, he was a devotee of the Lord, but there was an accidental fall down for Ajamila. Because of that accidental fall down, he had to undergo a lot of sinful reactions, and that's why Yamaduta came and they wanted to take his soul. But because he chanted the holy name of the Lord, Narayana, which is actually the Lord's name, so the Lord's Vishnudutas also came. So that's it's a very nice amalgamation. And ultimately, Vishnudutas, got the upper hand, and they took him to Vishnu. Yamaraj, I mean, there was a discussion with Yamaraj also, and it was referred to Vishnu, and then he went back to Vishnu. But the thing is that even Bhagavatam says, when he uttered that holy name and the decision was delivered by Yamaraj and by Vishnu, it is just that his sins, whatever past sins were there, that was eradicated. It is not that he got the, he didn't go back to Godhead immediately. Then he went. I also mentioned in the class that he went here. He was advised that he should go and complete his sadhana, and he did his 12 years continuous, at very intense tapasya, and chanted the holy names, and he perfected his life. He was a sadhaka before. He had accidental fall down. Then he continued that practice. He did a prayashchita. He continued the practice of bhakti, continued the spiritual practices in a very offenselessly and without offense, without aparadas. Then he became perfected. He went to the bhava. Then he attained the love of Godhead, the prema bhakti, and ultimately he went back to the Godhead. Correct? So this is the instance of Ajamila. And as far as Bharat Maharaj also concerned, and do you think that Lord was not merciful on these devotees? Lord was of course merciful. Lord was of course merciful to Bharat Maharaj also. Bharat Maharaj was such a great devotee, Raja Rishi, and then he had an accidental downfall because he got associated with a deer, and that is also the power of association. And he, in his next life, he became a deer. But because he had his previous vasana as a devotee of the Lord, he could recollect that, and of course, by the mercy of the Lord, he could recollect that. Then next life he became Jada Bharat. From a deer life, he took a Jada Bharat, and completely he was, like Avadut, he was there, and he was completely not distracted by the materialistic condition, although he was living as a human form, and he perfected his life. That he gave the instruction to the king Rahugan also, and then ultimately Lord, understanding his nature, he was already in the bhava stage, and then he reached the prema stage, and then he was also delivered. So the Lord, in it, according to our desire and according to our activities, he will show mercy. It's not that he will not show mercy, but there is one thing: if you are a devotee, he will be more favorable, more partial compared to the others, the non-devotees. Hare Krishna, I hope I have answered all your doubts.
Yes, Prabhuji. And one more thing, Prabhuji, if it is if possible, I'll ask Prabhuji, like Asat Sangha, we should not be in Asat Sangha. We are living in the midst of non-devotees also, like who are not practicing devotion.
Correct.
So at that times, we know that Lord resides in everyone's heart, and we cannot deny also.
Yes.
How can we take that, Prabhuji? Like, we can't even ignore them also, when we can't even have them in our life also. So it is, feelings are there.
Yeah. Correct. So now it's a very, very wonderful practical question. I mean, that we are facing in day in and day out, in the office life, or in your neighborhood and all that. There are so many who are meat eaters, who are drinkers. How much ever you tell them, they will not listen. In fact, they will try to force upon something to you also. Right? Oh, you die, what will happen? Nothing. This is just some small drink, this small wine, this small egg, something like that. They'll make you force. So what is important here is that yes, we are living in this Asat Sangha, but as much as possible, we should try to stay in a devotees association. But for some reasons, like to be in the office, working in the office, exposed to the material world, we are, of course, exposed to the Asat Sangha. What we have to be careful is that we should not get their influences, their vasanas. We should try to control ourselves, follow our devotional practices. Despite their offering so many things to you, you should say no. Because you know what is the result. What is going to be the result in karmic activity, So you should not, you should put a stop to it, and you could politely you can say no, because this is not, as per my devotional practice, I'm not going to accept this. It is not, like that you can say, and you can, without hurting them or without even, telling them that what they're doing is a mistake. You can politely, you can refuse, and then you cannot get the associate. So what is important here? While you are exposed to them, you should not get their association or their influences. Instead of that, you should give your influence or your spiritual nature to them, and then try to preach. Because when we go for preaching also, there are so many conditions, so many situations which will land us into this situation. So what is important is that we should not come down from our standards. We should maintain our spiritual standards exactly, but and not take their qualities as much as possible, but we have to give out our qualities. Then they will, over a period of time, they will also transfer, and they will also become devotees of the Lord. So we have to safeguard ourselves. Although we are exposed to such situations, we should continue our practice in a very determined way, and then definitely Lord will help us, and He will give the good intelligence, not only for us, even for your asat sangha also, other sangis also.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Spiritual standards in the sense like sadhana, we have to be very strong.
Our like no meat eating, no illicit sex, no tea, coffee, no gambling, all this which are there, and more than anything, not get aved by this the 6 enemies, which is the kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. This is there, prevalent in the entire world. It is there. So we should not get captivated or attracted to that. So we should continue our spiritual practice, come what may. Do your chanting and keep the consciousness clear, and take to eating prasadam only. That's it. These are the simple methods.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Shall we end the session, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji. Yeah, and I'm also sorry that I came a bit late. I was again today.
No, it's okay, Prabhu. Yeah, that is the reason. Sorry to devotees also, because they were waiting earlier, and now it's like 10:54.
Anyway.
But because Prabhu had some work and he was little busy, so that's why he had joined it.
Yeah. So, but it is good thing that you have a the team of devotees always chanting or doing some kirtan. So
yes, Prabhu. Yeah. And, all glories to Vasudha Mataji. Today she had taken the kirtan seva.
So that is the hallmark, that you don't waste even a moment. Even if the preacher is late, you are engrossed.
Hari bol, Hari bol.
Thanks to all the devotees. Anchakalpadru Shakrupa Sindhu Bhyocha Patitana Pavana
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Very
Hare
nice.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you.